Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome those in attendance here at Southern Illinois University and also those of you joining us via webinar today. On behalf of SIU, I'd like to welcome all of you to our Small Business Job Creation Tax Credit webinar. We hope that you'll get a lot of great information out of the program today. I'd like to extend a special welcome to Assistant Director of the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, Mr. Dan Seals, who's here with us in person today, and our speaker, Brian Salinger, who will be sharing his comments with you shortly. On behalf of the Small Business Development Center, we certainly hope that all of the small businesses take advantage of our resources throughout the state. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Brian to share with you this valuable information.
Thanks, everyone. Good afternoon. As was just explained, my name is Brian Salinger. I work for DCO's Office of Business Development in Springfield, Illinois. Two of my main responsibilities are to manage the programs that we're gonna touch on today, do a little brief overview. Development Center for, first and foremost, for hosting this nice event today. And also thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and learn a little more about these exciting programs, and for the many folks that are joining us from via webinar. I hope this is informative. I thought what we would do is just kind of, I wanted to touch on the main reason I'm here is to touch on the Small Business Jobs Creation Program. It's a great program, but the main thing to note, there's a window that's closing on this program, and it ends June 30th. So we still have time. We still have tax credits available, but it's just letting folks know out there throughout our business community in Illinois that we have to move on that a little bit to register. You know, it piques your interest right then and there. It's very informal. You can you know, ask me a question when it comes to that time. And then I thought we would jump into angel investment, go over the PowerPoint, and then do a Q&A session from there. But most importantly, the small business, I think it goes kind of without being said, but this is it's been challenging times. We all know that. It's been a difficult economy that we've been, you know, trying to slowly work our way out of. I think it's safe to say everybody in this room or on the webinar has been affected in some way, shape, or form with the down economy. But on a positive note, I think we're all seeing signs that we're slowly moving in a positive direction to turn this economy around and to add some jobs. And this Small Business Jobs Creation Program is a great tool for that. For any folks that have added a new full-time position during our program period, and I'll explain that a little more clearly, or folks out there that are on the fence and they're considering adding a new full-time job, this might be a little bit of an incentive to make you make that move into bringing on some new full-time staff. So without further ado, I'll go right into the PowerPoint and try to get into a little more of the nuts and bolts of the program and take it from there. 500 small businesses in Illinois, 95% of which have 50 or fewer employees, so a substantial amount of small businesses throughout our state, and that's what this program is going to speak so perfectly to. These are our small businesses out there. Unfortunately, we've all come to know some of these headlines. Hopefully, these are slowing down a little bit, but we've all seen slow recovery takes a toll on small businesses. These are just two examples. But as I had just said or explained, when you are ready to grow your company, at a new full-time position or positions, this program can offer a nice incentive for you making those efforts. And that's this program. It offers essentially a $2,500 tax credit per position that's added, per full-time position that's eligible with our program, and it's applied as a credit against your withholding tax liability, not your income tax liability, but your withholdings from which you withhold from the employee's salaries. So it's applied as a tax credit, and I'll explain that a little bit better as we go forward. But that's per position, per eligible positions, a $2,500 tax credit. With a lot of our DCO economic development-driven programs, the goal in this particular program is to assist and encourage small businesses to create local, sustainable new jobs and to help speed up this economic recovery. And with most programs also, the tax credits are issued on a first-come, first-serve basis. As I already explained, the window where the program is going to come to a close is June 30th, 2011. So you still have some time to register, and I'll explain how it's a very easy format to register, but the window is definitely closing. So as soon as you know that you've either A, added a position or you're thinking about adding a position, it's important to quickly register your business and those jobs. What type of businesses are eligible with this program? Sorry. It's kind of two subsets. As of June 30th, 2010, when you register your business, we want to see that day at the onset of the program, we want to see how many full-time employees you had at that date, and then you make any additional growth to your headcount, of your full-time headcount going forward. But we essentially want to see a business is eligible if they have 50 or fewer full-time. We don't care if the number of part-time, seasonal, summer help, temporaries. We just want to know that you have 50 or fewer full-time employees at that date as of last year, June 30th, 2010. The other part of the program, and this was an amendment that came through recently, the Put Illinois to Work program, and I don't know if many of you are familiar with that program, but it was a Department of Human Services program that was federally funded, and it offered folks out there looking for opportunities, looking for skill training, looking for jobs, frankly. Their salaries were subsidized through this program, through that DHS had administered. These folks could be put into different Illinois businesses, and DHS would essentially pay for that salary with the hope that these good, now further trained employees would be picked up by Illinois businesses throughout our state. But any size, not just the 50 or fewer full-time employees, if it's an any size business, regardless how many number of employees they have in Illinois, if they hire a former participant of that Put Illinois to Work program, they can be employees. Even new startups qualify. Businesses that are starting operation in Illinois today, they could add 2,000 jobs, and they could essentially, if the tax credits are there, they could get a tax credit for each one of those positions that are added. And I think another key thing to note, nonprofits were also something that was, I know, amended and brought in, since essentially I know they don't necessarily, they're not making a profit or bringing in income, but since this tax goes against the withholding, their withholding liability, nonprofits, if you're aware of any of those folks out there to share this with, nonprofits could be eligible to apply as well. What type of positions are eligible with this program? New full-time positions, hourly or salaried is kind of how we look at it. The positions must pay at least $10 an hour or $18,200 annually, and we also want to see that they work at least 35 hours a week on average. And that's a base wage. We don't take into consideration they make $9 an hour, but with overtime and those things. We just want to see up front what is the basic compensation that a person is making for that position, and if it meets these salary requirements, it could potentially be eligible. And also, like I said, if the same thing applies for the Put Illinois to Work side. If a company of any size hires a former participant, that position still has to meet those same benchmarks of the $10 an hour or the $18,200, and they have to work at least 35 hours a week. So nothing changes in that. It's just that any size business could essentially be a part of the program that way. The other key thing to note, they have to be full-time positions that are created between July 1st, 2010, and then very was as of June 30th, 2010, and then any jobs you add, full-time jobs from that standpoint, we want to see that that it's positive headcount growth and that it's sustained for a year. Like I said, positions must be sustained for 1 year. A little side note, if it's a former Put Illinois to Work participant, they can, the business months, they could get that other half of the tax credit. But for the small business, 50 or fewer, they would have to sustain that position for 1 year, and they would get the tax credit at that point. For the small business, it doesn't necessarily say that if I'm hired today, that Brian has to stay in that position for a year. It's more about the position. We want to see that it's maintained for that 12-month period, but we also understand and we're sympathetic to the fact that an employee may leave for a certain reason, an employer may be forced to have that employee leave, and those things can take a little bit of time to interview and to essentially hire a new employee. So the system will give about a month leeway there for you to do that process, get a new employee in, and then I'll explain the online system, but it's real simple. You can go in and edit that information. If someone leaves and I've come in, we just ask that you keep up those records, and it's very simple. Just edit the name and the employee's information, and you could still get a tax credit even though an employee left that position. Okay. And like I said, this is all about Illinois. The withholding, the folks that are participating, their withholding tax must go to the state. Everything higher in Illinois, and their taxes must go to Illinois. Everything's staying through the state here. Ineligible employee types, temporaries or any variation, no partners, independent contractors, anybody, there's ownership issues. If someone has 5% or of that, I'll get some calls from a husband and wife duo that own a small business, and they asked me, I brought on my wife this year. Can she apply for the tax credit? And I asked them, but I'm assuming that there's an ownership interest there, that it's a husband-wife duo. So if that would kind of nix it. But if it's a son or daughter that has absolute no ownership interest in the company, and they're just being hired to do a job and to pay their bills and that kind of thing, they could apply as well. And this is, I think, the beauty of this program. We want to make it as simple as possible, as user-friendly. And you see this website here right below the picture, jobstaxcredit.illinois.gov. If you go to that website, mainly want to see when that business, what number of full-time employees did that business have as of June 30th, 2010. And then once you do that successfully or unsuccessfully, the system will automatically communicate and send an email saying, congratulations, you're registered, you're part of the program, or you were ineligible, your business didn't meet the requirements for such and such reasons. And then when you go, you can click to add a job right there on the same link. And when you do that successfully or unsuccessfully, if you do it successfully, you'll get an actual tax credit certificate that's kind of a set-aside when you originally register to keep for your records. And then when you come back in, basically for the small businesses, 50 or fewer, 12 months from the date that the position was hired, our system's going to send an email to that business's contact person, and it's going to have them go back into this site, and it's going to have them click to a test to a few questions. And mainly we want to see, were these position or positions sustained for that year period, and was there a positive and sustained headcount, full-time headcount? And then when that's done properly, the actual tax credit will be emailed to the contact person that they can in turn take to send to revenue when they're doing their taxes. And this is just kind of an example sheet. this is how, this is where the businesses would register, but just ask a few things, their FEIN number, contact person, like I said, address, just a few basics. And then you can also click to add your position or positions, and you can even go back in there if things, like I said, if an employee would leave for some reason, you can go back in, click to edit, click to add more jobs. It's extremely user-friendly. But the other good thing to note, so you don't just think that you're strictly communicating with a machine, I'll be that person on the other end. So if you have any questions, any concerns, comments, I get them daily, and I just kind of walk folks through if they have a technical question, a question on the tax credit itself, anything of that nature. I'll even tell my number here shortly after the presentation to the webinar. I'll give you my direct line. Anybody can call me anytime if they have any questions or concerns, and I'll be more than happy to assist folks at that time. And kind of what I briefly touched on this, but 12 months from the time the position was hired, that's when you're going to go back into attest to a few things. And then for the Put Illinois to Work part of it, 6 months from the time they hired that former Put Illinois to Work participant, the system's going to send them an email and ask them to attest. They could get half the credit, and then they're going to get another email at that additional 6-month period. And it's hard, a little difficult for you to probably see, but just kind of a copy of what a tax credit certificate looks like. Just gives the company information, date they registered, their amount of tax credit, things like that they can in turn take that to revenue. And just kind of a quick review. Obviously, these have to be filled by full-time employees. Those positions have to be sustained for 1 year. Have to make at least $10 an hour, or that $18,200. The withholding taxes from that business must be going to the state of Illinois. Those are kind of just some of the main quick review. And then this is also an email link here too that comes to me as well. The Jobs Tax Credit Program at illinois.gov, and a phone number. And for you folks in the room and on the webinar, my direct office line is 217-557-0513. And again, it's Brian Sellinger. And anytime you guys have a need or a question, please feel free to call me, and I will promise to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Is there any questions? I know I kind of touched. Yes.
For this program, the headquarters have to be located in Illinois, or could they have, say, branch offices or labs in Illinois?
They could have branch offices as long as that withholding tax for that job is going back to the state of Illinois. But it can be branch offices. But that's a good question. The thing to note about that, it has to be, if there's branch offices in, let's say, Missouri or just scattered all throughout Illinois, we take the full total head count of that entire company, not just for that location in Carbondale. It has to be the entire business has to be 50 or fewer, or it can be more than 50 if they're hiring a particular former Put Illinois to Work participant. But that's a good question. Yes?
You said earlier 35 hours a week.
18,200.
But they don't have 35 hours. Is there
That's
credit available? Is it more about the hours or about the actual hours?
It's both. I mean, it's primarily both. They want to see that the number of hours are being put in. That was kind of what was decided, I guess, for this program basis, is what we deemed full-time equivalent. But that's a good question. I'll talk to you. I can talk to you, offline and try to figure out a little more about that and see how we can, kind of work on that possibly for you. Any other questions actually in the room on this program? Or I know we probably have some maybe coming through on the. Oh, that's fine. No, we'll try to take as many, we'll take as many as we can. I'm sorry.
What skill sets are in with Illinois, and do you work
It runs the gauntlet.
The first one says, what types of skill sets are in the Put to Illinois to Work pool of people?
It's difficult for me to know exactly. This was a Department of Human Services managed program. To my knowledge, it runs the gauntlet. I mean, they had numerous types of employees with numerous skill sets. I probably just I don't know enough to be frank and honest. Every type of or even some examples of positions. I just wouldn't want to speak to something I'm not 100% certain of, since it was a Department of Human Services. But I know it ran the gauntlet of employee types and skill sets through DHS.
Next one is, do you anticipate the creation of a similar tax credit program beyond June 30th of 2011?
It's tough to forecast. I do know that it was briefly discussed at the Capitol. I think a senator had discussed about pushing this program out an additional year. I've checked with our legislative staff, and they have not heard any more. Going to come to a close on June 30th. So that's kind of the way that we're going about things and getting out there like today and trying to let folks know that we've got a short window here. But if for some reason we get knowledge that this program could be pushed out, that's something that we're going to try to do our best, like we do with all these programs, to start to communicate that through the local economic development organizations, Chamber of Commerce's, universities, municipalities, that kind of thing, and let folks know, and also send email notices to the folks that are already participating in this program. But as of right now, that's a good question. We're under the guidance that it's June 30th is kind of when this program's going to wrap up.
I just noticed somebody's asking if you could repeat the questions that you're responding to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
And I know you're having a hard time reading them off there.
Yeah.
Let's see. There we go. Just trying to make it a little bit bigger. I thought that companies who have greater than 50 jobs could apply also.
The question was posed. I thought the companies who have greater than 50 jobs could also apply. Yes, that is factual. Companies with 50 or more full-time employees, the way that they can apply is they have to hire a former Put Illinois to Work program participant. And the way to go about, if you want to find more knowledge or more information on the Put Illinois to Work program, since it wasn't a DCO sponsored program, we've been asked to have folks contact the Department of Human Services. And I think an even easier way, from my experience, to contact them on that program is they have an email for that program. Put Illinois to Work at illinois.gov is the way that I would go about it, and just pose an email to them, to that program, about any questions that you might have about those former participants.
How about employees that have already been hired since July 1st of last year? What do we have to do to register them?
The question is, how about employees that have already been hired since July 1st of last year? What do we have to do to register them to get this credit? That's another great question. Even though we're here today, if somebody was hired at the beginning of that program, July 1st, 2010, up through today, they can still register. They can still get that credit. What they need to do is go to visitjobstaxcredit.illinois.gov, click to register, and then they're eligible. And then at 12 months from that date that they made that hire, last July, they're going to get an email here this July explaining that they need to go back into the program and attest that position was sustained for the 1 year. So anything that's happened prior to today, as long as it was from July 1st, 2010 until now and going forward, you can apply and register.
I have tried contacting Put Illinois.
Okay, I got to see it. The question posed from the webinar, I have tried contacting Put Illinois to Work by phone and email, no response. How do you get a hold of anyone at that government office? The way that the way that I'd be more than happy to try to facilitate that process. If you want to give me a call, again, it's 217-557-0513. It's Brian. Call me, and I'll try to merge those two worlds together and help you on that. So please feel free to call me, and we'll work that out. I apologize, but I'll do what I can from our agency standpoint. Okay. Yeah. Another question: Can we get credit for an existing job type for which we hired an additional employee, receiving clerk? Yeah, the job type is not really of concern of ours. We just mainly want to see that you're adding a new full-time job. You're increasing that overall head count that you had at June 30th, 2010. That you're adding new full-time positions, and that number stays in addition, and it stays sustained for that one period. So in terms of job type, that's not as a concern. We just want to see that the full-time positions are being added. Another question: as far as registering now for employees hired before the present date, you literally have to just go to jobstaxcredit.illinois.gov. You'll see on the left-hand side of that link, it'll have a little icon that says register. Click to register, enter your business information. Once you've done that successfully, it'll allow you to add a job or jobs. You click that, add that website, you'll be able to do that process. Okay. Anything? Yes.
What about if I remove the manager position and hire a new manager for, say, 3 weeks?
That manager's position has been in place prior to June 30th, 2010. There's got to be a positive bump up of your overall full-time head count. So you can't fill in. And even though you're bringing in a new employee, I understand that, and I get that question. But it has to. Your full-time head count has to jump in a positive way from that June 30th, 2010 standpoint. Anything else? Yes.
One-time tax credit per position, is it something that you can do if you create more than one position? Can you get the tax credit multiple times?
You can get it as many times, as many jobs, as many full-time jobs that are eligible within the program requirements. You can get a $2,500 tax credit each time for those eligible positions. And if that tax credit exceeds your liability, it can be applied 5 years going forward. So and that's a case, I know that sometimes these tax credits might exceed your liability, but that's a good thing to know that you've got 5 years to keep trying to apply to any liability that you might have in those following years. That's a good question. The question webinar, if the professional employer organization customer registers and hires someone, can the customer get the credit? Professional employer organizations would not be eligible. It's strictly the Illinois business that's hiring employees for their business, not kind of the go-between, I guess you could say. It has to be an Illinois business that's hiring someone that's going to be doing offering actual services for their company. Could apply. PEOs would not be allowed. Possible question coming through here. Those are some good questions and common questions that I've received to date. But I definitely can't, say that enough. But truly, just it can't hurt, if nothing else, just to visit the job taxcredit.illinois.gov and just kind of take a look and doesn't become eligible, but there's a chance that it is probably going to be eligible. I think the question she typed, temp service. Same kind of thing. It's got to be a business that's hiring directly employees for their business, not kind of a business hiring someone, but to place them in other places. We want to see that it's an Illinois business that's hiring employees strictly for their location, their business. Okay, that's kind of what I wanted to touch a little overview over the small business jobs tax credit program. And now we'll go into the angel investment program, and I'll try to go over that. And this is basically, it's a very new program, just launched January 1st. Another really exciting program that I've been trying to get out there. We're trying to communicate and talk to folks about. Oh, I think you got to click, I'm sorry. And like I said earlier, with a lot of our programs, purpose of this particular program, we're trying to encourage continued job growth, but in our Illinois' innovative business sector is where we're really trying to put our focus into with this particular program, and then also to expand capital investment back in the state, which is very important to each and every one of us in this room. And the best way I try to explain this program to folks, it's a two-part program where on one side we have our Illinois innovative businesses, and I'll explain that what I mean by innovative businesses. We have an application that can be found on DCO's website, and the program information and link is on DCO's website. It's the folks that apply, and I'll explain what it means if they're eligible or what type of businesses can apply. They submit an application to us. We review that application, see if they meet all the program requirements. If they do, we get this innovative Illinois business up on our website. We give a brief business description, contact information, and then on the other side of the program where the tax credit would work, registered innovative Illinois businesses could receive a tax credit for making that investment. It's a 25% tax credit of their investment back into that company, and I'll explain that a little bit better. Eligible qualified businesses must be, this is what they have to be an eligible qualified business. They must have fewer than 100 employees at the time the business actually submits their application to DCO. They cannot have been in operation in Illinois for more than 10 years leading up to submitting that application. They have to have their physical headquarters here located in Illinois. They have to have at least 51% of their employee base has to be employed within the state of Illinois. They cannot have received more than $10 million in private investment in cash, or $4 million worth of investment to qualify for tax credits under this program. And the main thing we want to see too in the application is that they have the potential for increasing jobs and placing capital investment back into the state of Illinois, so that we know that if they're getting a benefit through this program, we want to know that it's helping them create those jobs, but also that there's some investment coming back into our state, and that's how all of our programs operate. We're not essentially giving money out. We have strict metrics that have to be met in order for folks to be able to participate in our programs. These are the principal type of businesses that are part of this program. They need to be principally engaged in innovation in one of these following sectors. That's manufacturing, biotechnology, nanotechnology, communications, agricultural sciences, clean energy creation or storage technology, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, computer software, hardware, semiconductors, or other innovative technology products. And then the other main a new business model, a new business service that's reliant on that proprietary technology. Have they developed a new product? Are they in the process of developing a new product? Have they acquired a patent for their product or a patent is pending, a product has gained FDA approval, those type of things. We just want to see how is what you're doing is innovative compared to other businesses that might be, or companies that might be out there. We really want to get a good explanation of that and some examples of how companies truly are being innovative. And this is just kind of what I kind of went on, that we just want to see type of innovation. The other key thing to know, if a firm registers today with DCO and they are deemed to be an eligible innovative business in Illinois, this time next year they need to come back in and fill out an application. And the application has questions in there that we mainly want to see: are they creating jobs? Are they putting capital investment back into the state, such as the program calls for? So if you're successfully registered one year, they need to come back in the second year. We want to see that they're still there, they're still in operation, they're still doing what the program is asking of them. Ineligible businesses types would be businesses principally engaged in real estate development, insurance, banking, lending, lobbying or political consulting, professional services provided by attorneys, accountants, business consultants, physicians, healthcare consultants, wholesale or retail trade, leisure, hospitality, transportation, construction, except construction of power production plants that derive energy from a renewable energy resource. And the only thing I could say is I know sometimes when I guess give this information, sometimes some of my seminars, folks in the room are principally engaged in one of these things, so I can kind of tell the body language in the room. Just because you can't necessarily be an eligible business, it doesn't mean that you can't be an eligible angel investor who gets the tax credit for making the investment back into one of these businesses. So just because you're not eligible to register your company doesn't mean that you couldn't potentially be an angel investor and receive a tax credit for your corporations, partnerships, LLCs, who are making an investment in one of those qualified businesses. It can also be individuals. It can be anyone in this room can make an investment, monetary investment in one of these innovative businesses and potentially receive a tax credit for that. A key thing to note is the program wants to see that the investment that's made into one of these businesses is sustained for at least a 3-year period. We want to know that that money was kept into that Illinois business. And we also have a very brief application that I get to those folks that become eligible angel investors, that I get to them, and they would just need to submit on an annual basis. And it's a pretty simplistic application. I try not to, we're not trying to make it more difficult or drown folks in paperwork. You guys have enough things to try to keep track of, so, but just something that we need to see for the program requirements. This was where it's instead of the small business where it was a tax credit that applies to your withholdings liability, this is a tax credit that will apply to your income tax liability. So the income taxes obviously must go. An angel investor must be an Illinois person, a resident who has their income taxes going to the state of Illinois. And then the main thing we want to see, we also have an application for the angel investor. And the main thing we want to see is that they made a monetary investment on such and such date, and that we have some kind of copies of this investment, so we're not just taking people at their word. We want to see copies of an invoice, canceled check, receipt, something that we know that yes, this investment was made, it was made on this date, and it was made into one of our qualified eligible businesses. And another thing we also with our programs we'll do some back checks, especially on the investor side, the people that we're giving these investments to. Kind of make a quick check with Department of Revenue and just make sure they're in good standing. We don't want to make it a policy of giving folks tax credits if they're not in good standing with revenue, so that's just something we would do on our end. And about the actual tax credit for those angel investors, it's equal to 25% of their investment. The max investment that we would consider for that would be a $2 million investment. So in essence, a $500,000 tax credit would be the max per investment, per tax credit you could get for an investment made into one of our Illinois innovative businesses. Like I said just a second ago, it can be applied as a credit against your income tax withholding. And this is another one, just like small business. If for an angel investor may not sell or otherwise transfer a tax credit awarded. I know that in some programs, or I've even read in programs throughout the country, some things will allow certain tax credits to be sold, but just to note that this program does not allow for tax credits to be sold. And this program is annually capped at $10 million worth of credits, and that's key to note. You know, if you know of a business that you think might qualify or might be interested in qualifying, I would definitely recommend them. And I'll give the email, but to contact myself and try to get their business, get the application in, so we can review that and register them. And then also, if an investment's made into one of these businesses, it's important that they get that application from us and get that submitted so that we can get them a tax credit, because a lot of these things, I think this is going to take off with more awareness out there throughout the state. And once we get to that 10 million benchmark for the year, that's going to end it at that point. The program is going to run through 2016. So then next year, all things willing, if the budget allows, and that $10 million tax credit would be available next year and those following years if nothing changes to the program. Same thing, first come, first serve. And basically what I do when I get an application in-house, whether it's the innovative business or it's an angel investor, I immediately date stamp it. I want to put them in a line, make sure that I'm doing that and keeping it organized, and I know who's been there first in case we do get into a situation where we're running out of tax credits. I want to make sure the people that did what they needed to do and followed the requirements that they're taking notice, and we're getting back to them. The registration process, it's a very simple process. The angel investment at illinois.gov is another email that I monitor personally. If you have any questions that you want to just send an email to me, please feel free to do so, and I'll see that email pop up on my computer. If you want to email me and say, hey, you know what, I think my business might be innovative, it might fall within the requirements of that program, send me an email. You can keep it brief and say, I'd love to get an application. I will turn that around and email you an application immediately. We do ask that the completed application be mailed in-house to DCO, to the address given, which is my office in Springfield. In our database, but we do need the actual hard copy to be mailed, completed hard copy to be mailed back to DCO to be considered eligible. We have a review panel that I essentially, as soon as I get these applications in, I try to sit down, review them, do a little research on the company, make sure they're meeting all the program requirements. I write up a descriptive of my take on that application, and we have a review panel that actually sits down and kind of makes sure that my recommendation, if they agree or disagree. And the only time it's you know, you meet the requirements or you don't. But just to explain to you guys, the only part where we've had where the panel has to come into play a little bit is in terms of innovation. We get a few applications. Most have been solid, very good applications, and they're registered on our website. But I get a few of those that I don't mean to make light of it, but if they just say the word innovation 15 times in their application and technology, but they don't give any examples or how they're going about this or how they're truly innovative, it's hard for us to, without clear examples of their innovation, for us to register them. So not many, but I've had a few that it just didn't meet what we were looking for. So instead of me being the sole person, you know, we have a review panel, so we're is registered. I get that information up on our DCO website, so potential angel investors out there can see that when they visit the angel site. I'll get them a letter that states that they're registered so that they can have for their records, and also it's a nice thing to show to folks in their community or potential investors that we are registered through the Angel Investment Program with DCO. Registered angel investors, I will also get them a note that they're registered in the program, and I'll also get them the tax credit certificate that they can immediately apply. As soon as I get that in the mail, as soon as they're qualified, get it in the mail, they can in turn take that on at the soonest time when they have a tax liability. Just a quick review, and I appreciate your guys' patience. I know it's a lot of information to take in after lunch here in the afternoon. Interested Illinois innovative businesses or angel investors out there that have made an investment in one of these companies, or maybe just be an investor that wants to know more information, or they want to get an application, please feel free to email angelinvestment@illinois.gov. I monitor that daily, and I'll make sure to communicate with you. And I try to communicate with the folks all through the process. I got your application in-house. We'll be getting back in touch with you soon. I don't like to leave things kind of lingering out there. I want folks to know that we've got the application, we're reviewing it, and then let them know if they're eligible or not. So yeah, I'll stay in good contact with both folks. And like I explained earlier, registered businesses need to come back the second annually, that we just want to see that investment is maintained for at least 3 years back into one of our Illinois innovative businesses. And this is just kind of a brief little screen here of the actual DCO angel investment program, but just clicking a few steps: business assistance, business development, and tax assistance takes you right to the angel link. Or if it's more simple for you to just contact me directly, I'll send you that link and have no problem doing that either. And up here on the screen again is my number, 217-557-0513. That's my direct office line. Please feel free to call me, send an email to Angel Investment, and anything I can do to help with the process or answer any questions that you might have, I'm more than willing to do that. Any questions first in the room that we might have on the Angel Investment Program? Yes.
With respect to the investor side, the individual investors, you have listed some of the requirements, but I didn't see anything about being an accredited investor in terms of my SEC.
That's not a requirement as per this program now. Yes.
Following up on your question, is there a minimum I can use some of these maximum recognize a certain amount of investment?
We don't. Any amount is recognized. The only, I guess, part that we take into account is that maximum amount that we would consider for a tax credit. $2 million investment is as far as we would go to consider investment, a 25% investment off of that $2 million, but it can be as large an investment as possible, and as long as we still have tax credits available during that program year, we'll continue to take applications and try to get tax credits back to folks. Yeah.
With respect to the business type of ownership, LLC versus C corporation, what are the restrictions on that?
There's certain ownership requirements, and the statute will spell out the legalities a little bit better, but just one of the main things you credit, and then from an LC standpoint, it kind of flows through, the tax credit flows through like it would on any on their ownership distribution kind of thing. But and we get some of these questions often on the actual tax credit side or revenue side, more or less, and we don't mean to defer you to another agency to talk with, but when it becomes more specific to tax issues, we would ask folks, first contact me, and if I can answer the question, I'll be more than happy to do so, or put you in a good contact with revenue. But if it's something that we more worry or work on the upfront, the program requirements, and then revenue comes into play when it becomes a tax question, tax issue, or tax credit issue. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Any other questions in-house here or anything? Okay, question on the webinar. Do hospitals or skilled nursing facilities that are expanding in Illinois qualify? That would probably be, I would say off the top of my head, I would have to, dive in a little deeper and ask some more questions, but off the top of my head, that would be I'm pretty sure that they probably would not be eligible proprietary technology from that particular business. But I would have to say that would probably be leaning more to not being eligible, but I would definitely recommend contacting me. We can talk it out a little further, kind of get a better idea of what they're really, what they're doing, and then, see if we think, we should get them an application and kind of take that forward. Next question, if your business is eligible for research and development credits and angel credits, which do you use first on a tax return? I just know that our programs are totally separate of each other. I couldn't tell you that you have to use one before the other. I just know that when you get a tax credit on these two particular programs, you can apply it to the earliest point you have a liability, but I don't know if there's a certain, you have to do this one before the other. I think you just, whatever tax credits you have at that time that can be applied, you should do that at that time.
If we're working with an angel and a company and they come to terms on an investment deal, does the investment have to happen after they've officially been approved and the angel's registered on the site? What's the timeline restriction?
That's a good question. Someone here in the room had asked about if an angel investor makes an investment into one of these companies, when will what time frame or what investments will be considered for a tax credit? Yes, the way that we're looking at it currently, it has to be an investment that's made into one of these registered businesses after DCO has registered tax credit. There's been a little bit of discussion whether we would, if there's enough, response, if we would consider investments that have been made in one of these businesses after that January 1st when the program started. That's being discussed, but as of right now, we're still going under, it has to be an investment that's made after we've registered an innovative Illinois business.
Follow-up question. How much information from a proprietary viewpoint are you putting on the website about the individual company? Are they signing some type of waiver that they agree?
Yes, yeah. In the application, they have a waiver that they sign. And essentially, if you visit the website, it's extremely basic. I just try to give a very brief, sometimes a couple sentences, maybe a paragraph, just brief business description of what they're doing, what innovative work they're involved in, and then I give the contact person's name and that company's phone number so that those angel investors can then, in turn, they can make that relationship. Any other questions in-house? Well, again, I thank you guys very much for attending today in the room and on the webinar, and some great questions. And I know it's a lot of information to try to digest, but I've got extra business cards here. I've got more program flyers. Please feel free to contact me. I know it's a lot to try to follow and understand, but they're great programs. The small business, like I said, to reiterate, 7 weeks left essentially to take a part of that program. And if you've hired someone from July 1st, 2010 up to this point, you can register them to get a It's a fairly new program, but we're starting to get a lot of interest from both the businesses, the innovative businesses, and the angel investors. And there's a lot of things, there are a lot of questions. So please feel free to contact me at my office, and I'll be happy to kind of work you through the process and better explain it. But I just want to thank you guys again for